Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Thursday Night Live with SAFC Fan TV. And here with us today, we have Jack. Hopefully, Jack can stay for a full episode this time. It'd be nice. So, how are you doing, Jack?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Little bit under the weather, a little bit of sniffles today. So if you hear us sniffing a little bit in the show, I apologise. And hopefully, my internet is a little bit better than last week. It picked the perfect time to cut out last week. So hopefully, tonight you get me for a full hour, as Mike has already said. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Hopefully so. And the man himself, the mad mistake that is Terry. How are you doing, Terry?
Absolutely shattered. I've just literally getting in, had a quick bath and straight out. I've been over to the dark side today to do a video on my other channel somewhere in Newcastle. The most dangerous place in Newcastle, allegedly.
Were you wearing red and white?
No.
Even you're not that brave, eh? Right, in the chat already, we have David Jobling says, good evening, lads. John Ruddock, please don't mention the model. Why am I doing this? Jack, off you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So yeah, as mentioned, John Ruddock says don't mention the model, and then Conrad liking to stir the pot a little bit. Looking forward to hearing more about the model. We've got Stephen Clark says evening lads, Conrad Tank evening all, and Kieran Gale's just joined us, all saying evening lads. So hello to you all.
Excellent. Right. Well, we will start with the bad, as we always do. The previous result, obviously, Swansea 2, Sunderland 1. Jack, were you at the game?
I was, yes, unfortunately. Yeah, we were all hoping for a bit of a lift last week, weren't we? And we were all hoping for a Sunderland home win, and it never materialised. Do you want us to go into what I thought, Mike? Or we just
go for it. Yeah. No, I've left the floor open for you.
Yeah. I've got plenty to discuss. So yeah, it looked like he went with the model that he went with before the when he was caretaker the last time, wasn't he? When he was the West Brom and Leeds matches, 5 at the back, 3 centre backs with the 2 wing backs, and it just didn't work at all, did it? Swansea were absolutely dominant on us in the first half. They stopped us passing the ball out. They pushed us high up the pitch. They tackled strongly and they nicked the ball off us and just denied us any sort of real momentum in the game. They knocked it about better than we did in our half. And it was a matter of time before the goal came, and it did come. And then you were looking for some sort of a reaction, weren't you? Looking, this should kick us up the backside, and we should continue and try and improve. And it just never happened. Swansea again dominant, got the second goal, and really, if it had been a better team higher up the league, it probably could have been 4 or 5 in that first half, couldn't it? Let's be honest, we were absolutely shocking. We were slightly better in the second half, marginally better. We couldn't have been any worse. Last 20 minutes, obviously, we had a bit of a go. We get the goal back from O'Neill, bundling one in, but we didn't really deserve anything. Let's be honest, we got what we deserved, which was absolutely nothing. And it was a really, really flat performance. So, yeah, really disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. We've got 72 people in watching. Don't forget to hit like. Terry, let's have your take on the Swansea game.
Right. Jack there summed it up pretty well there. I was a bit disappointed that actually Callum Styles started, to be fair. I mean, I thought Mundle would have started. How often do you see a player coming back from injury or even a new player just going straight into the side? And I thought it was probably a poor choice, to be fair, and going back to the 3 central defenders. Again, he changed it to that system and we just got totally high-pressed and we got out-battled and we just looked really weak. Probably the worst first-half performance that I've seen this season by far. We just couldn't get the grips of the game. We're outplayed, out-battled. The players just looked, I don't know, as if they were just completely dejected. For me, it looks as if the season's completely over, and that's the way it felt with the players as well. To me, just the players sort of just like are resigned to the season being over already. No confidence. Dodds admitted he got it completely wrong in the first half and changed it in the second half. And we did sort of come out, we were a little bit better. But we only sort of seem to have one way of playing, don't we? It's like the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-1-4-1, that kind of system where it can change to either one. And that's it, really. And we just seem to have the ball a lot. We can pass it around 20 or 30 times in our own half. But as soon as we get the ball in the final third, there's nobody's in the box. I mean, that Mundle put a hell of a cross in at one point. There was just nobody there. Yeah. Where who's breaking the net to get in the box to try and score goals? You know, it's just like teams come to Sunderland and just say, you know, let Sunderland play. because they know we're not going to put the ball over the top with a long ball. They know we're not going to really sort of, create too much going through the middle. So it's just straight down the wing. And even that was poor at the weekend with no Jack Clark, and now Jack Clark's out for probably the rest of the season. So, yeah, it was disappointing, very disappointing. And it just seems to be no sort of idea or plan apart from this slow passing out from the back, and then we get to halfway and we just lose our way.
Yeah. Do you think it's a mistake playing three at the back like that without Ballard being there, because he's our main centre back for me? So do you think it's a mistake from Dodds to play that kind of formation when you've not got Ballard in there, Terry?
Well, he's trying to do something different, hasn't he? Because I know like Bale got a lot of slack slated for the 4-1-4-1 formation, so he's trying to do the same sort of thing. But I'm sure you've got to work on this during the week. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's probably too much. We missed Ballard and we missed Jack Clark, probably the two best players that, for me, I hope I'm wrong, will be gone next season. So it looked a really weak side all round in the first half, totally sort of devoid of any ideas. And like I said, once we get into their half, once we try and pass the ball through them, we just lose the ball anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack, who was the bigger miss out of that game then, Clark or Ballard?
Both of them probably in equal measure, but given the fact that we had nothing going forward at all, you'd probably say Jack Clark was slightly more of a miss. But I just think it looked like a team that Swansea knew exactly how we were going to set up, and they look like they're trained and they've got it spot on. You know what I mean? You probably, Swansea over the years have been quite a passing team, haven't they? They've been a pressing high team, and then they keep the ball and you can't get it off them for large spells. So it's not like that's new to them, the way that we were going to play, but it looked like they read it completely, and everything we tried to do, they had an answer for. But I agree with Terry. I've said it before on this channel, we're so one-dimensional. We've only got one way to play. And if anything else happens in the game, or there's any sort of anything else, then we struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it just looks as if now we're screaming out for a decent head coach, somebody who's going to just do something completely different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's loads of names being bandied about. We'll definitely go into that shortly. Would you believe on the stats, though, for that Swansea game? We had the majority of possession. We had the majority of passes. We had the best pass accuracy.
But like we said, sorry, like we say, like Gabby Deeney summed it up perfectly on BBC Newcastle when I was in the car. He said, teams come to Sunderland and say, just let them have it in their own half. By the time we get to our half, they'll pass it 20, 30 times and they'll just give the ball away. We'll get the back straight away.
Sorry, Terry. Particularly when the team's 2-0 up as well in the first half. So they've got the goals, you know what I mean? They know that we're not going to, as Terry says, play the ball in behind. We've got no Jack Clark to create anything. So they're happy to just sit back and let us have the ball. And there's a lot of stats go around in football. You can have a lot of the ball, but as we did on Saturday, we did very, very little with it. We had a lot of it was slow, pedestrian passing. Nobody trying anything different, no creativity. It was passing. And Swansea are going to let us have a lot of that ball. Do you know what I mean? Because they're going to keep us at arm's length and say, well, Sunderland aren't doing anything with it. So, I mean, you could say we had a lot of the ball, but I don't think that was reflective in the game. It was only the last 15 minutes when, ironically, we went a little bit more direct, start to play, balls into the box a little bit more, and we start to get a little bit of success. We nearly nicked a point at the end, which wouldn't have been deserved.
And it's like people have stated, it's like it is kind of passive play, because we've got the ball in our one half and we're just passing the ball backwards and forwards to ourselves, and we're not doing anything with it. So it's passive play, isn't it? They're going to sit there all day saying, we're 2 up, do what you can do all day long for me. We'll go home 2-0 winners. Until we actually change the system and really go direct, we're never really going to create anything.
Yeah, he did say, Dodds, that he was going to go for every single game, didn't he? So it gives me a bit of hope that he might try something new and it still might be more attacking. There was a call up for young Tom Lavery as well. He didn't actually get on the pitch, but he was on the match day squad. He was from the under-21s, 18-year-old lad, I think. So interesting that he might be bringing some more youth in. It's not like our side's young enough as it is. So what's the comments doing, Jack, before we move on to...
Yeah, so Brian Scotiamacken says, evening lads, small chance for the playoffs, but we shouldn't be dragged into a relegation battle. I'm not sure there's that much of a chance in the playoffs, but I admire his optimism. Marianne and Carl Taylor, hi guys, do you think we need a new number one? Patterson has made a lot of mistakes. We might come on to that later on. That might be something we can discuss later on. John Nesbitt, evening gentlemen. Brian Scotiamacken's got a question for you, Terry. He says, have you been asked to box against Rooney or KSI? It looks so with your robe on. Well, I'm not sure if you want to comment on that, Terry. You look like you've got a robe on and ready for a boxing fight.
I just don't turn the heating on, so I'm bloody freezing, so it keeps it nice and warm.
That's what it is. Nothing style-wise. David says we were far too slow getting it forward, which I'm sure we'll all agree with. Jimmy Two Shoes. Hamir looked a little bit brighter when he came on. Should give Hamir and Rushin a run up top together. Jim Nesbitt says, hello, John. Nesbitt brothers are in the house. We have both of the Nesbitt brothers with us tonight. That's very good. Stephen Clark says, no service to the front from the midfield. It's too defensive. The wingers don't cross it. We need a 4-4-2 system. Emma Hansen says, evening, lads. John Ruddock, there's something not right with the Clark injury. That's something we need to discuss as well. What's gone on with the Clark injury in terms of how it was reported and why it's now worse than it seems. That's definitely something we'll come back on to. And yeah, that's how the chat's going. So
yeah, we'll come on to that straight away if you want, Jack, because obviously we were discussing Clark being a big miss of this game, but we were all expecting it to be one game. I mean, how does assessment of an injury go from he just rolled it so he can play the whole Birmingham game? Oh no, now he's out for a game, but he's okay. Oh no, now he's out for potentially the rest of the season. How's that happen?
Yeah, it doesn't fill you with much confidence, does it, as Sunderland fans in our medical department and the physiotherapy unit? You know, either they've tried to cover something up and it's backfired on them because the word's getting out that he is injured, or they genuinely didn't think that his injury was as bad as they thought. Now, I'm not sure which one of those is worse. Probably the latter. If you've got a physio in a medical department that think it's just a brief strain or something, or like you say, rolled his ankle, Mike, and that looks like maybe a game at worst, to suddenly now it's 6 weeks, is it? Is that what we're being told? Which that makes it a push for him to get back by the end of the season at all. So that's a real worry, unless they were trying to sort of play it down and maybe, you know, and take a chance that he wasn't as bad as we thought and not make the fans, you know, because they're already under a little bit of pressure out there at the minute, and maybe they weren't trying to worry the fans, but whatever's happened, it's backfired because it hasn't looked good at all, and it raises a few questions for me.
Is there another word for that? It's called lying, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you could dress it up like that, Terry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think I don't know what's happened. I wouldn't like to think they've been lying, but
last week there was reports all over saying he's out for 6 weeks, and then Dodds comes on and says, well, they're rubbish. He's all right. He's going to be okay next week. He's just missed a couple of days training. So I don't know if Speakman's told him to say that, but I think there's something fishy going on as well. But his agent, Ian Hart, saying he's definitely going in the summertime. And they're now thinking, well, we don't want to risk him getting injured even more. So we'll say, right, he's not ready. He's not going to be ready for so many weeks. And KLD's thinking, wait, if he gets injured, we can't sell him for loads of money. So is there something else going on behind the background, like a bit of conspiracy theory there?
Is that a silver lining, Terry, that the injury, if he is out for the remainder of the season, we might hold on to him for another season? Is that a silver lining in all this?
I think he's gone full stop, mate. I think Ian Hart's already said he's gone.
Yeah.
I think even if he has a bit of an injury, I mean, he doesn't really get injured that much. Teams are still going to want to buy him, aren't they? Especially the teams that are struggling in the Premier League.
Yeah, our only hope of holding on to him was obviously a promotion run, which we all seem to think is not on the cards at the moment.
It's like now the season's basically over for Sunderland. Why risk Jack Clark?
But everything I've heard about Jack Clark is that he wants to play football. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, whether or not... I wouldn't like to think he's listening, if it is Speakman, if it's Ian Hart, his agent in his ear. I wouldn't like to think he's thinking like that and just doing whatever he's told, because everything I've heard, he's a good character. He wants to play football. I'm not going to say he loves the club, because we hear that a lot from players, oh, he loves the club, and a lot of the time they probably don't. But I would like to think he's not being told what to do, and if he can play, I wouldn't like to think he's sitting out and waiting for the transfer, because I still think even if he got a knock, Terry, I still think he'd get a transfer in the summer anyway. I think it would have to be. I think it would have to be for Jack Clark not to get a transfer in the summer, if that's the way it's angling and it looks like. I think it would have to be a really bad injury, like a broken leg or a cruciate or something like that. I think that's the only possibility that he doesn't move.
He could be injured though at the same time. Maybe it's a couple of weeks, but they might say, right, just be on the safe side. Let's make sure you're not going to get injured. You know, make it worse. Have a few more weeks off.
Yeah. Well, one out, one in. Cory Evans fit again and in full training. How long for? What do we think of that? Terry's already shaking his head. We'll go straight to you, Terry, because you might have an opinion on this.
Why, when they're trying to put a silver lining and make everybody happy, but let's face it, the injury he's had, it's going to take a long time to get back match fitness. I don't think he should even try to get back this season with that kind of injury. You know, you're going to get a couple of 23 games. How many times you come back? Just look at Ross Stewart, came back, injured straight away. How many times you're forced back into the football too soon, footballers, especially at Cory's age. I know he's not an old man, but in football terms, he's getting on a little bit. And that's a canny knock and the canny injuries he's had. So if he tries to rush it back this season, it could be just finished altogether. So you're going to make a decision. Do we want him as a 34-year-old or whatever he is next season as the most experienced player in the side with a chance of getting injured? Like same goes for Dak. Personally, I'd rather just say, right, you're getting rid of Bath, you're getting rid of Gooch, you're getting rid of, you know, Pritchard, the three good experienced players which we should have kept. For me, I don't think we should be keeping Cory Evans. I don't think we should be keeping Dak. We should get the experienced players in who've had 2 or 3 seasons in the Championship or Premier League, but the ages of 24 to 27. That kind of experience for me to bring all these youngsters through. If that's if they're going to go down that model and adjust it slightly, instead of bringing 16, 17, 18-year-olds in, bring some 24 to 27-year-olds in who've still got some good years ahead of them, but they can help improve these youngsters. And for me, I think you're taking a risk by giving likes of Evans and Dak under the contract. Dak's come. How many games has Dak played this season? What an absolute waste of time was signing him.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've always sung his praises. I think he's a wonderful player.
You got the T-shirt.
Jack, what do you think? Evans coming back. What's your opinions on him as a player, and obviously coming back from such a big injury?
Yeah, well, I think it's ironic, isn't it? Everybody's always screaming out for experience, and I agree, we do need experience, but I agree, I think Terry's hit the nail on the head. It has to be the right type of experience. It has to be the right player. And I think at the minute, Cory Evans' best days are well behind him. And injuries like that, they take longer as you get older. If you got that injury when he was 24 rather than 34, you'd say, yeah, no problem. But when you're 34, every little knock suddenly builds up and it takes you longer to recover. And his contract's up in the summer. I don't really see a huge amount of value in it unless there's a potential he could go into, he's thinking of retiring and they might be able to offer him some sort of coaching deal, but I don't think that's likely. So I think yeah, if he's ready to come back and he you know, then maybe a couple of games towards the end of the season. But I think really we should be prioritising trying to give somebody else a run in the team, like a centre midfielder, like somebody like Chris Rigg. I know Chris Rigg's not entirely a defensive midfielder. He's not a hold midfielder like Cory Evans is. But do you know what I mean? The more we play the likes of, you know, Evans and players that we know don't really have a future in the team, it's holding back some of those a little bit. And you know, I'm not saying the season's gone, but it's highly unlikely we're going to get in the playoffs. I mean, we're going to try and win every game, but now is the ideal opportunity in the next sort of 12 games between now and the end of the season to try and develop the youngsters. Do you know what I mean? There shouldn't be any pressure on them. And I think, you know, the more you play, dare I say it, a croc like Cory Evans, I might be being a bit harsh. I do think you might be holding one or two back. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think there'd be much benefit in playing them at all, to be fair.
Terry, why do you think they're making such a big deal about someone like Evans coming back? Is it just trying to skirt over all the negatives? Is it just Sunderland social media trying to keep us on side?
They've got to find something, haven't at this moment in time. There's so many negatives about it. I mean, and the likes of Evans, he'll have an under-23 game, maybe it's in 2 weeks' time, another under-23 game. So before he even gets on the bench, it could be a month's time. And then how many more weeks of games before he actually gets a full game? So I think the season's over for Cory Evans. And end of the day, I like him. He's a canny bloke, and I wish him all the best in the future. And I hope he has I hope he doesn't get injured again, but I can't see him being sort of a player at the top end of the Championship. I might be wrong. I hope I am, but personally, I'd let him go. But yeah, because of the Jack Clark situation, you know, getting rid of all the experience, dropping down the table, the whole fiasco, Michael Beale coming in and getting sacked. I think they're grasping for something, saying he's coming back. Then they'll probably get rid of him at the end of the season. So it's just short term sort of, right. And hopefully get our sort of smiles up for short term, aren't they?
Putting plasters on bullet holes. You wanted to be in there, Jack.
Yeah, I was just going to say in terms of the way that Cory Evans plays. I mean, he was never that quick of a player when he was younger. Now he's not really slow, isn't he? I mean, he's got his value and his positional sense and his experience, and he's a neat and tidy player on the ball when he's fit. But I think the only way it would work really now in our team is if you had two really athletic players alongside him. You know what I mean? Like an Ekwa or a Bellingham, literally right beside him to do all of his running and his fetching and carrying in the midfield, because he's not going to tear up and down the pitches. He lets be honest, Cory Evans, and he's not going to really get in the box very much, so he's going to just sit. So I think you would have to have two really athletic midfielders alongside him as part of the three. So and then you'd be sort of changing your style just to accommodate a player of that, a player of that age. So I agree. I think all things are screaming towards him, just petering out and seeing out the end of his contract. Should I bring the chat in, by the way, though, Mike? Should I?
Yeah, let me just on the fact that you mentioned Ekwa. He was just branded by a podcast as the most disappointing player of the Championship. Just wanted to get both of your thoughts on him. I know. Personally, I like him, and I think he's been played away from his position he should be. And I think if he was played more attacking, he'd do a lot more. But I'd like to get your opinions on them. And we'll go to Terry first, and then you can go straight to the chat after yours, Jack.
Well, let's be quick about it. Since the Southampton game, I don't think he's been the same player since he had that injury. And then when he's come back, he's been asked to do a different role. I think pre-Southampton, the Southampton game, I thought he had a good start to the season. I thought he was decent. I think something's happened between after the Southampton game, getting injured and coming back. So he's not the same player. I'm hoping next season he'll show a different Ekwa.
Right. Jack, did a dead leg make all the difference?
Yeah, I think on the Ekwa, what you said, I don't think there was that much expected of him in the first place. I don't think he's been that much of a disappointment. So I wouldn't say he's been the most disappointing player. To be fair, I sort of get what they mean. He has got that potential. I don't know where sometimes you want him to do it on a consistent basis, and he sometimes he flatters to deceive. If we play him well, it looks like he wants to get involved. But when we're up against it, I've noticed he's not as physical as he could be. He's not really getting involved very much. So whether or not he needs a proper holding midfielder to push him a bit forward or not, I don't know. But I think calling him the most disappointing signing, I think that's slightly over the top. I think that's a bit harsh.
It wasn't even signing; it was player in the whole Championship, apparently.
It is definitely is a bit harsh. Let's face it. I mean, before the Southampton game, he was the best player, man of the match, wasn't he? Let's face it.
But is that the problem, though? Is he a victim of his own success? He did so well at the start.
Maybe some players just play off confidence, and he's had no confidence since then. And I think maybe it might be something to do with maybe just a mental thing at the moment. And he might come back fresher next season with a different head coach, different training. Maybe he's in a different place, a different sort of job to do on the pitch.
Yeah,
different player. He's young enough to grow, definitely.
Yeah, I like him. Jack, do you want to go to the comments then before we lose them off the top?
Yeah. I'll just go back to where I left off the last time. Tony Huntington says, I was being a bit harsh on Dodds. His last spell he played 3 at the back. Tried it again this time. It didn't work. He saw it and changed it, but look at the injuries. He doesn't think Tony Murphy would have done better. I think it worked the last time because maybe Leeds and West Brom possibly weren't expecting us to play that way, but it looks like Swansea had worked out how we were going to play and they were adapting to it. David Walker says, men against boys. SJ, just say we get 40 million for Clark and Ballard. Does anybody really think we'll put at least half of that into the team? It'll be another load of kids. We could get 40 Abdullah bars for that. We've spoken about that a lot. That's a whole new topic, but it is something to ponder. And David says exactly the same. If Clark and Ballard go, it'll be interesting to see what we do with the money. John Ruddock is basically saying the same. Real JB is mentioning Patterson. He thinks he needs another keeper possibly to push him. Stephen Clark. Stephen Clark's talking about the Clark injury. He thinks he's got scans and found out the results. As far as he's aware, they didn't do the scans before the Birmingham game. It was just the Swansea game, and they only got the results recently. Okay. SJ says, we're putting our hopes on Evans, and that shows our ambition. Conrad Tank can't sell the likes of Ballard and Clark at the same time and make a promotion push next season. I think it all depends on who we bring in, to be fair, but it's a tall order, I know. We'll leave it at there for now.
I'm not having that with the scans. When I worked in a private medical practice that dealt with Man United players, the scans are results of the same day. There's no way our lads are using the NHS and having their wait times. I'm not having that one. Terry, you wanted to be in?
We have got KLD and Speakman in charge, so maybe they are going to the NHS. Anyway, right, but Dodds, fair play. Dodds is missing 3 key players: Clark, Ballard, and also Huggins. Huggins has been a massive miss. I think Huggins is one of the best players leading up to his injury.
Yeah, definitely. Huggins, I couldn't believe when Huggins came on and started doing runs that were Jack Clark-esque down that side. He looked amazing to me. When he got injured, I was so gutted with that one. Definitely. We've got loads of good players to come out. I mean, Elise was only just finding his pace again, wasn't he? And then he's out again.
He gets injured a lot, doesn't he? Though he got injured last season and at the back end of the season when he came on against Luton, he got injured again. Yeah. He's been injured a couple of times this season. Unfortunately, some players just can't stay fit. It seems like Dennis Cirkin and Elise just can't stay fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes you wonder if that's the reason we were able to get them from the parent clubs, though. And the first time, maybe they've known, oh, yeah, okay, we'll get a half-decent offer for him, and Sunderland come in and they play it up as, oh, yeah, his injury records are really, really good. And suddenly when he comes here, it's like, does a scan on his medical and he's got this issue, he's got that issue. And then suddenly we're like, oh, that wasn't on the wasn't in the brochure type thing.
And going back to the Cory Evans thing, is Cory Evans going to really want to put in a couple of hard challenges after he's been injured for so long? It's going to be a different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Quick one we'll mention, just because you mentioned it in the comments. I haven't got it written down, but it's to do with the keeper you mentioned in the comments. Finding a replacement or a potential competition for Patterson. What's your feelings on that, Jack? Do you think that's something we definitely need to do? Personally, I've been shouting about this before the January window.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think Patterson, he maybe could do with a little bit of a experienced head alongside him. And sometimes maybe with goalkeepers in such a unique position, just to take them out of the team for a match or two, just out of the firing line, you know what I mean? Sometimes that could help. But I definitely think an experienced goalkeeper alongside him, as a number two, that recognises maybe 30 plus. I know that goes completely against our sort of the type of signings that we make, but somebody that's happy to be number two, that's experienced, that he can learn from, and maybe now and again, if he does have an odd game, realise that that number two is there to push him, so that he knows he's not guaranteed to get his place. Because I agree. I think he has looked a little bit shaky at times, and a couple of times we've conceded goals from him. Sort of, a team's had a shot and he sort of flapped at it and palmed it straight out when I think he could have done better. So yeah, I think he does possibly need some competition, but an out-and-out number two as well would be helpful.
I think experience is needed, especially when it comes to distribution, just reading the game, not giving it to somebody's feet when he's got two players right on his back. Terry, what's your thoughts on this? Surely the model has got to bend when it comes to goalkeepers, because their longevity is longer than most players. You can have keepers at 40-year-olds still playing at top level.
If we don't want to be in the same position next season or worse off, the model's got to bend, full stop, simple as. But goalkeepers, and we've got an experienced goalkeeper coach there. Is that the Italian blokey? What's he called again?
Not sure off the top of my head.
I'm sure we have. Like, either A, Patterson's not ever going to be able to learn and grow from the mistakes he makes and to sort of improve his faults, or B, we need somebody in there who's going to actually be able to coach him to get out of these bad habits, to coach him to improve his game. Because if that goalkeeper coach has been there all season, then he's not doing a really good job, is he, to be fair? Because Patterson has the ability, he's got the talent, he just needs to improve his game in certain areas. And that's where you do need a number two, because the number twos we've had, I mean, Bass last season, he's on loan this season, gets shut off straight away. Then we've got this other bloke in now, this other young lad from Manchester United, never really been given much of a chance, but I've seen him in the 23s. I haven't really seen anything I've sort of enjoyed about him. He's never going to push Patterson, is he? So we need somebody in with the experience and somebody who's willing to sit on the bench. On the bench, that's the main thing. If you get a good up-and-coming keeper, they're going to want to take over Patterson. If we get an experienced keeper who's been there, done it, who can teach Patterson, who's good enough to step in, probably someone like that. But like you say, they've got to have to bend the model, haven't they?
I mean, your dream scenario is a really good goalkeeper who's approaching the end of his career. Maybe he's still got a season or two left in him.
Like and John Moody or someone.
Yeah, he's got his eyes on becoming a coach, because that would give him the coaching experience as well to say, listen, go and take Patterson under your wing, show him what you know, etc. So, I mean, that's your kind of ideal candidate.
That's probably the only way. Sorry to interrupt, Mike. That's probably the only way it'll work if you've got a keeper who's nearing retirement, who's happy to be number two, play a few games, but knows that pretty much he's winding down his career. Talking age-wise, you're talking probably somebody at least probably mid-30s, 34, 35, 36. But they should surely see the value in that for that one-off transfer. And it's what we've talked about on this channel quite a lot. It's okay having the type of club that you want, you know, the model, so to speak, but you know, you have to have exceptions to the rule, and somebody like that, they surely can see the value in that. And we're not talking about the value in terms of what the resale value is going to be. We're talking about the value as the squad here and now. Do you know what I mean? So surely they're not, you know, purely looking long term. Surely they can see the short term value in somebody like that. So I mean, if they can't, then that is a worry.
Yeah,
and we also need somebody who's not going to just come in and be happy to sit there and take a wage, and actually have some passion and want to improve with the players as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if any ex-Sunderland keepers who have semi-retired are watching this, just unhang your boots up, come back for another season and do a job. I'm sure you'll be taking
Talking about
it
Pickford.
Yeah.
Somebody's mentioning him on the chat. Now I know Jordan pretty well, and there's absolutely no chance. I mean, it would be brilliant if he did, but they've got absolutely no chance. You've got more chance of Jimmy Montgomery playing in goal for Sunderland than
maybe 2 or 3 seasons time, like Jack. You never know. Maybe 2 or 3 seasons time.
I don't think so. I think probably
the
6.
League.
More like 7 or 8 seasons time when he's wanting one last deal.
This nicely brings us on to our next subject, as it were, what people said don't talk about at the beginning. Now, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, The Mad Mistake on his channel has done a brilliant video recently regarding managers. Now, what I liked about it, it wasn't just let's rate this manager out of 10. It was let's rate how he would fit with this bloody model out of 10. Would he work with Speakman? So, I mean, now it was a great video. Let's go over there and have a watch after this by all means. But Terry, give us your 2 cents on the model at the moment. I think we know generally your feelings on it, but is he got any choice but to change, or is he going to carry on? Is it going to be relentless going down this road?
Well, I mean, negative side of me says that he's going to be stubborn and keep on going down this road till we end up in League One. But you know, it depends what the plan is. Is the plan to strip everything back to bare bones again, all the youngsters, and now get a head coach in, and then obviously get some experienced players in the 20s to develop the youngsters to go forward? That's got to be the next plan, because if we're going to continue doing what we're doing now, we're going to lose like to Jack Clark, possibly, Ballard possibly, and the players who are going to be replacing them aren't going to be up to scratch like them players are at this moment in time, because they've took a step forward from the season before. But then Jack Clark first came, he wasn't ready either. But now he's ripping up the championship with goals. We've got nobody. Mundell's just come in. He's raw, and he's got the ability. But will he be ready for next season? The chances are he won't be, which means we're going to step backwards on Jack Clark's side. Then we've got Ballard. If unfortunately he goes, who's going to replace Ballard? Silt. But then Luke O'Nine's still going to be there, and Silt's going to be as good as Ballard. And you've got that scenario all the way around. And until we get players, so if we sell Jack Clark and we actually reinvest that money into some quality players, a couple of players with good sort of experience in the mid-20s who can help develop the youngsters, that's the only way the club's going to progress. If it's always going to be the same thing where we get youngsters in, improve them, sell them on and have this conveyor belt, at some point we're going to slip out of the championship, because the conveyor belt will stop giving as good as what we've already got. And that's where the problem is. The model has to change. Now, I may be doing them injustice. The model might be changing next season. They might adjust it. They might have to change it to actually, because who's going to want to come in, apart from the likes of Michael Bale, to do a job at Sunderland, to sit there and have no say at all in players coming in? All the head coaches, even Will Still, he wants to bring all his entourage with him. His backroom staff in. That means the likes of Dodds will probably have to go. They're going to have to bend the model to do that, because he won't come in and just sit there and fail at a club with no experience. So yeah, it's going to have to change. Otherwise, we're going to end up with another head coach in charge again, someone like Bale, who's set up to fail.
Yeah. The way Terry's worded that, Jack, it sounds like we're going to be a permanent feeder club for larger teams, whereas we should be the club that's being fed. What do you think of this model? Do you think that's how we're set up at the moment, as just, you know, Premier League scouts' dream club, you know, sat in the Championship, just churning out quality players and not keeping hold of them?
I think that is the way that we're going, and I think that they're hoping that you buy players on the potential, they showcase that potential, they do well for you, you sell them on, and you rinse and repeat. You get the next sort of, as Terry said, conveyor belt chain of players, however you want to describe it. You do that 2 or 3 times, and eventually you improve your squad to a level whereby eventually, whether it takes 2 or 3 goes on that cycle or 4 or 5 years.
Hello?
Sorry. So whether or not you do that within the next sort of 2 or 3 seasons or 4 or 5 years, however long it takes, eventually it results in a promotion. However, it does raise questions in terms of what's the recruitment going to be, because the only way that works is if your recruitment is spot on. You have to get the right players in. So far, we have been, and I've said it a few times before, we have been more hit than miss. However, you live and die by your recruitment, and you only need a couple of bad windows, and you suddenly you're really, really struggling. So this is where they need to bend it a little bit. The model does need to be sort of tweaked. I don't think scrapping it completely is the right idea, i.e. signing, trying to spend a lot of money, because I think we probably can't do that well. In my opinion, I think we would struggle to get the players in that we need, but it has to be tweaked. You have to go now and again on the player above 30. Maybe spend a player. If you see a good deal for a player in the Championship, and it doesn't matter what age he is, if you think it's a good deal for that player, somebody transfer listed, and you think you can get him cut price, go out and do it. Do you know what I mean? Surely they're all about potential and they're all about improving the club, but surely they can see the value in something like that and not just, we'll sign him on for £30 million. You know what I mean?
And also, if the model will only work as if you get like someone like Jack Clark, and he's selling for 25 million, and you reinvest 3/4 of that, because obviously a quarter's going to go to Spurs, and you reinvest and you bring in the next level of youngsters. So you're buying in youngsters now for next to nout, for like sort of, I don't know what they do now, 850,000 or £1 million or whatever. You sell Jack Clark and you get all that money, and you reinvest all that money. You buy youngsters coming in at a higher price with a sort of higher skill level. That's the only way you're going to get. I think did Brentford do that along the lines? I'm sure they had 1 or 2 experienced players in as well.
Yeah,
Brentford and Brighton. I think that was that's the main sort of ones that did well with this model. I know people don't like us using that word, but it was Brentford and Brighton are the ones that really executed it so well. And ended up having success with it.
Are we not already doing that though, Jack? In the fact that I know it's a flop, and I know I'll probably lose my seat on the chair of the Dak fan club. But bringing Bradley Dack in, is he not that what you're talking about? That bargain player with the experience that should have done the job?
No, because
again, that's. Sorry. That's where you've got to get your recruitment right. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it looks like it doesn't look like a bad deal. It was a bad deal. You know what I mean? We've signed a player who's nearing 30, who has fitness issues, who's probably not that committed to Sunderland because he knows, well, I can get another Championship club, bottom half Championship club at the end of the year. Hunger doesn't look there. Doesn't look like he's going to improve at all. He's certainly peaked as a footballer. So again, it all comes down to the type of player that you are bringing in, and you have to get your recruitment right, and this is where it's so vital that the players that you're bringing in are right, more so than any other time. Yeah,
it makes absolutely no sense to sell Pritchard, keep Jack, keep Dak. Simple as. It makes no sense. Dak's come in. Most of us knew he was injury prone when he came in. What does the medical do? What medical has he had to get into this club? And as soon as he's at this club, he's had a couple of injuries straight away. So that was just an absolute waste of time getting him at the club. We may as well have kept Pritchard, who's got another couple of seasons in him yet, who can help develop these youngsters, keep that experience, and just get rid of Dak, possibly get rid of Evans, and use that money instead. I think sometimes when these people in charge have got their mind set on something, they don't have any sort of leeway whatsoever. They just single-mindedly want to do it. We all knew at the start of the season they weren't going to keep the likes of Bath. They weren't going to keep Gooch, and they weren't going to keep Pritchard. That came out at the start of the season. I even came at the back end of last season. So that came out from somewhere, and it's come true. They haven't changed it. They've just done it. Cut their nose off despite the face, upset the fans, and it's backfired completely. They're going to have to change. KLD has have to wake up, change the model, address the situation, and probably replace Speakman or just toe the damn bloke in line and, tell him to do something different.
Yeah. Definitely.
He needs better advice. He needs somebody who's advising at this moment in time, KLD. He needs better advisors.
Yeah. I agree. Definitely. Too many mistakes happening now. 126 people watching. Make sure you hit the like button. Jack, what's the comments doing?
Yeah, we haven't been to the while. I'll try and get through as many as I can without droning on too much.
Just pick out your favourites.
I'll pick out a few. But just talking about players being sold, Emma says that she thinks most of them will go. So Ballard, Neil and Clark, and a few are saying, no, I don't think they'll sell all three all in one window. Stephen Clark says, if Clark goes, would you take Joel Asoro? Probably not. I mean, I haven't followed his career that much, but I probably wouldn't have him. John Ruddock says we should get Steve Cooper in now and let him have a look at things for next season. Well, managers have been spoken about. I think Steve Cooper would do a good job here. Whether or not he would come in under this structure, whether or not he'd come in before the end of the season, I don't know. I'll just move down a little bit. I'm skipping a few, but Stephen Grimes, are Sunderland being run by somebody playing Football Manager? They're clearing no money in the club. How did Sunderland end up with somebody like Beale? I'm just going down. Stephen Clark said the name of that gentleman you're trying to remember, Terry. Alessandro Baccarini. So that's the gentleman you're talking about, the Italian fella who is head of goalkeeping. One or two mentioning keepers who obviously already touched on Jordan Pickford. Jim Nesbitt, one last one. SAFC have only sold Ross Stewart, which forced on them. Turned out to be a good call. We bought players in the summer window. We bought players. The summer window will show if the owners are running a selling club or not. So that's some of the comments from the chat.
Yeah, head coach and manager wise, can we hold out to the end of the season, Terry? Is leaving Dodds in charge till the end of the season, then getting somebody in, a good idea? And are we completely clear of a relegation battle?
I think when Beale first went, I was just happy Beale had gone. So I was thinking, yeah, Dodds the end of the season. But when you think about it realistically, we really need to go out there and get somebody in, probably about maybe half a dozen games to go, to let him see what he's got, see what talent he has at the club, and see what and sort of go to Speakman and say, oh, and this is what I need. I need these bodies replaced. I need a central midfielder, a holding midfielder, a striker. I need whatever I need, another goalkeeper. And the only way you're going to do that is by having somebody in. And for me, being proactive would be have somebody in 6 games to go. Bringing somebody in midway through the summer is going to do absolutely nothing. And for me, you need to have someone in early, have that sort of, have that backbone there already, and develop the club, develop the team through him. Get the players who are there, kind of understanding the way he wants to go already. And then so when you sort of hit the ground running in the summer. Wait until, no one's Speakman and all these, we'll wait till bloody July before we get a new head coach in. And it's not going to work. I think we need somebody in. I don't mind giving Dodds 4 or 5 games, see how it goes, but I don't think he's the answer anywhere, full stop. We need another proper head coach in. I'd say 6 games to go.
Jack, what do you think of that? And do you think that the fans would be forgiving of any coach? If a coach came in with 6 games to go and got 5 losses and a draw, and we were already on that form before he came in, would the fans be forgiving enough to take him into the next season after what we've just seen?
No, in our fan base, no. I think that's the worry. I understand where Terry's come from, give the manager a chance to bend, so he's not coming in and slap bang in the middle of the summer. But our issue is if that manager comes in with a few games to go and he doesn't do very well, our fans will I'm not saying our fans will want him out, but there won't be any confidence. They'll be saying we've made the wrong decision. So I think it's all about the right man. And I know it's easy for me to say because you don't know who the right man is until he takes the job and does well. But if they've got a preferred target and they've got a number 1 man in there, I would rather, if he isn't going to become available until the summer, I would rather just wait. Do you know what I mean? Rather than panic and try and bring somebody in now. You know what I mean? I think there might be better options available in the summer if managers leave the clubs by mutual consent, or the contracts are up and they're not renewed, or whatever. I think you have a bit more scope in the summer for more managers, and I think that might make it easier for us to bargain with those type of managers. So I'll probably wait. If we've got a right man in mind, I would rather just wait until, get him in as soon as the season finishes, by all means. I think it's early May, isn't it? Middle of May, unless we get into the playoffs. So I think there's no reason why, as soon as we have that last game against, I think it's a Sheffield Wednesday at home, as soon as we have that game done, then get them lined up straight away, as long as it is the right man, if we can do that. But that's the worry. If you bring somebody in a few games to go and doesn't do well, the fans won't have any confidence in him.
Yeah, 4th of May.
Sorry, I think it's got to be the right man. I mean, let's face it, if he brings another Michael Bale in with 6 games to go, the fans are going to go, what the fuck, you know? Who's this bloke? He's done nothing. If we get somebody in like Cooper or like Potter, who, you know, and get them in with 6 games to go, the fans will be like saying, no, they've got someone in decent. I think they'll be okay with it. But I understand where you're coming from with someone like Will Still maybe contracted at the end of the season at Rems, then he's available. And then, yes, that's good. But if we wait to the end of the season and bring another Michael Bale in, we're just like, what have we done? You know, so I think it's all down to the ownership. The ownership next season is going to have to sort of fall on the sword at some point, because if they go through next season and they're seeing what they're doing this season, the fans will turn against the likes of Speakman and KLD. So whether selling Jack Clark, if the fans are seeing that money reinvested in decent players, good talent, and some experienced players, they think fair enough.
Yeah, well, Beale's our Voldemort, by the way. He shall not be named. We're not supposed to say his name anymore. That last fixture's on the 4th of May, Jack, the one you're on about, the Sheffield Wednesday at home. You've pretty much answered there, Terry. The one last question on this before we go on to previewing the next game is, who is the right man? Who, in your eyes, who's your number 1, number 2 choices for the next head coach / manager? Is it Cooper and Potter?
You know what is? I did the video of the day, and I was reaming them off, I was thinking there's a few of them I quite like, and apart from obviously Wayne Rooney, you don't want him at the club. No. But you know, like Cooper's done a good job. Potter, I think Potter will be my number 1 man at the club, but like I say, under this model, I can't see him working with the restrictions I can't see a lot of managers coming with the restrictions at this moment in time at this club. They're going to need some sort of guarantee. And if someone like, for instance, say example, Potter came and then didn't get the guarantees and got pissed off and left after 6 months, that would be absolute nightmare for the owners. So it's got to be the right person. But yeah, I do like Potter. I do like Cooper. Paul Heckingbottom wouldn't be a bad one either, you know. Someone like that, or even like Will Still. And I kind of like thinking maybe it's another European one, but do we want an experienced English manager, or do you want to go for a young European manager, you know? Because Will Still's obviously a young man. You got Hellberg. I think Hellberg just joined another club in the last few months, possibly in Sweden. But yeah, there's plenty of candidates out there we could go for. Just hope we go for one of them.
Well, for you, Terry, KLD comes to you, said, Speakman's out the equation. We'll do whatever the manager wants. Money's not an option. Who do you want as manager? 1 man.
I'll just give it to Graham Potter.
There we go. Jack, what's your feelings on the managers? Obviously, we've got loads of candidates batting about. I've just been reading about the Polish one, Marek Papson. Don't know if you've heard about him yet, but he's a 49-year-old coach, and he took their team in 7 years. He went up 3 divisions and won every title on his way up. So interesting, but it's a different caliber of football. So where are you at?
He sounds good. I've never heard of him, but bring him in. If he's getting 3 promotions in 7 years, I'll sign up to that. No, I mean, Potter would be a dream candidate, but I think, unfortunately for Terry, I think his ambitions, he'll have probably higher ambitions than a championship club. I think he wouldn't be out. It might sound daft, but I think if Southgate has a pool of Euros with England, it wouldn't surprise us if the FA were looking to try and get somebody like Potter in charge. Or I know Eddie Howe's been mentioned, but I think Potter would, in my opinion, would probably be the number 1 target for the FA. So I would have Potter, no doubt about it, but I think he'll have better offers, and I don't think he'd be looking at us. My number 1, difficult one, I'll probably go Steve Cooper. I think Steve Cooper knows this level. Another one that hasn't been mentioned so far would be somebody like a Scott Parker, though I know Scott Parker he's done well with Bournemouth and Fulham. I appreciate they had a lot of money to spend, but he got 2 promotions, Terry. You're putting your head in your hands. Now, I know that he had money to spend and they had much better squads than us. But 2 promotions from the Championship in the last sort of 5 or 10 years. I'm not saying I would want him. I'm just putting his name in the frame. But my number 1 would probably be Steve Cooper, and maybe Will Still second. But Parker's an option. That's all I'm saying.
There's no denying Parker's got the talent. He's just got the connections to Newcastle, isn't it?
I know, but it's not like he's not a Geordie, is he? I know he was at Newcastle.
He's no Steve Bruce.
Yeah, it's not like Alan Shearer's in the running. You know what I mean? He's not like a hardcore Newcastle United.
How dare you even utter that name on this channel?
There's not many voices that I absolutely hate to hear, but I kind of stand that bloke's voice.
We've got 143 watching. I think about 50 just jumped out when Jack mentioned that name there. So we apologise for the swearing. I've put the name in the chat as well, Marek Papson, if anyone wants to have a look at him. There's a full article that I read on him, so it's quite interesting.
It'd be the cheapest option.
He looks a fair option, to be fair. But we shall see. Anyway, let's move on. We could talk about managers all day long because there's so many candidates.
Did you get his teams promoted from the Tesco's County League?
Polish leagues.
Tesco's Polish League 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Tesco's in Poland. That's good Tesco knowledge if you know they've got Tesco's in Poland.
Right. Press for time, gents. Come on.
What time's it?
Right. So, next fixture, Norwich City. Obviously, it's an away game. We don't have a great record. Jack Clark's out. Not good. I think Ballard's still out with his suspension because it was a 2-game one. So, again, not the best scenario. On a positive side, I don't know how this is positive or if it's just me spinning the media like Sunderland do. It was where Bar got his first goal against Norwich. So there's interesting. We might play him for that very reason. Jack, what do you see changes-wise going into this one from Dodds? Is he going to mix the whole thing up again? He did state he'd go for every single game.
It's a bit funny, isn't it? Because, like, I think, ironically, the 3 at the back would probably work better on Saturday against Norwich than it did against Swansea last week. You know, we're away from home. I think Norwich are a slightly better team. They're more likely to come at us, and that's where you might have your value in your 3 at the back. But it'd be really interesting to see how brave Dodds is. Does he go with it again? Or does he say, actually, we're going to go back to the 4-2-3-1 that we're a bit more familiar with? I would probably revert back, to be fair. I think that, you know, the team seem to be more set up in that way, don't they? You know, we seem to, Terry touched on it earlier, and I know the same, we've only got one way to play, but I think, you know, that is the best option for us at the minute because it looks like the way that the team is set up and that's what they're used to. So I think we probably revert back to basics to a certain extent. So do you go maybe 4 at the back? Do you go Hume and Helder as full-backs and 09 as Seal as the 2 centre-backs, Ekwa and Neil up front, and then maybe bring in somebody as an attacker and make sure Styles doesn't play? I don't know. That would be something I would maybe look to, in my opinion, down at Norwich.
Terry, what's your thoughts on Norwich? I mean, if we're not going to get goals from the magical Jack Clark's moments, is this the time we have to play 2 strikers for a change?
Away from home? I'd be tempted to go 4-3-3 personally. Like, that's just my thing. I'd go back to a flat back 4 and I'd have Mundle in. Definitely start Mundle 100%. I would put Styles on the bench, or do we play 2 strikers but play them one out wide? That's the thing. Do you go Hamia? Do you go like sort of Mundle and you go Rushan, and then do you go like in the middle? You got like sort of Ekwa, Dan, Neil. We'd be tempted to bring in Rig over Job, or is it a game too soon for Rig, or would you keep Job? I mean, but I'd be tempted to go 4-3-3, and you could actually him. I just, you know, personally, I just don't think. I don't like saying this. None of our strikers are out and out strikers for starts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't think our strikers are going to make it at championship level. That's just my opinion, and I just don't think, no matter what we do, we're going to struggle anyway to feed the strikers because they're not out and out strikers. So for me, you're better off probably playing Rush and Hamir up top. Oh, it's hard, isn't it? Because
it's funny because that's the team I put out before the Swansea game in my preview on my channel was Mundle on the right, Rusyn on the left, and Hamir through the centre.
Yeah,
I thought that would be a strike force that would at least get some shots off.
Try something different like that, personally. I mean, I think probably Bar, we're seeing the best of Bar, and I think maybe Bar's better off not on the bench, coming off the bench for like after 60 minutes.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's something different like that because I mean we are struggling really for options. And the thing is, who would you rather start, Job or Chris Rigg?
I'd rather start Dak than Job right now.
So why not just give Chris Rigg a run out, see what happens?
Yeah,
I mean, I've
definitely.
heard rumours that, and the artist rumours that if you know Chris Rigg might be away in the summertime, because of the lack of game time he's getting, and he wants more game time. But will he get more game time next season? Is he a year older?
There was top clubs interested in him last year, even, wasn't there? There was rumours of that last year. I think United were actually scouting him at one point, or so the rumours say. Jack,
just give him a chance. Start him. Put Job on the bench. Start him and see what happens.
But from Chris Riggs' perspective, that doesn't. If he wants to play more, and then he's heckling for a move to Man United, that doesn't quite make sense, does it? Unless he's going to go out on loan. Do you know what I mean? But where would he go out on loan? Would he get another Premier League team, or would he go back in the Championship? I don't know.
He'd get to play as much as Ahmad does. What's the problem?
I think with Chris Rigg, it depends which coach comes in and what they have in store for him in the future. If he thinks he's going to get game time at Sunderland and start games next season as another year on, then yeah, fair enough. I'd be happy to keep him, definitely 100%. I mean, I don't want to leave anyway, but I think at some point this season, he's got to start a game of football to see where he's at. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. Jack, Lewis Brown in the comments said Job's mum says he's playing this week. do you think Job should be on the pitch this week?
Yeah, he's looked a little bit leggy. Didn't play well at all. He wasn't the only one that didn't play well against Swansea, but he really looked at him and thought he was just, dare I say it, sauntering around the pitch. He didn't look confident to get on the ball, and he didn't have a very good game. But he wasn't the only one, so it's maybe a bit harsh to single him out. But yeah, he maybe could do with the rest, or dare I say, being dropped for a couple of games. I'll just mention a few other chats, a few other messages on the chat. A couple giving the predictions. David says 2-0. I don't know which way he means 2-0, but he says 2-0. John Nesbitt, 4-0 defeat. I'm known for sometimes being a little bit negative and pessimistic with my predictions, but I don't think even I've predicted a 4-0 defeat before. Wow. DJ says, Watson, can the players cut the mustard on Saturday? We are in Norfolk, so a nice little pun there from DJ Sizzler Watson. We are in mustard country. Is it Coleman's Mustard of Norwich? Are they around?
Let's be having it, eh? Let's be having it.
Yes, Delia. A few saying drop Job, get my teeth in. John Nesbitt Dodds is a puppet, and it'll be interesting to see what Speakman picks on Saturday. I'm not too sure on that. So 1 or 2 talking about team selection as well, saying Louise Brown says Rushin is out of his depth in this league. Stephen Clark says, I think Semedo and Rushin should start. I think he means possibly up front. I would probably go Mundle over Bar if we could. I think Mundle's shown a little bit more than Bar has, despite the fact, as you touched on, Mike, earlier, that Bar scored at Carrow Road. I'd go Mundle ahead of him.
Yeah, he's put Mendel in the rest of his squad. If you look, Stephen Clark, he's listed his entire team there. He's put 9 in net, I think.
More potential than Barnsley, let's face it. 100%.
Right, so we're coming towards the end, but you're not getting away with not doing a prediction, gents. So let's bear in mind, Norwich have been a goal-scoring team of late. They managed to bag 2 goals against Liverpool, 2 against Coventry, 2-2 QPR. They beat Watford 4-2. They beat Cardiff 4-1. Absolutely banging goals in. Their last result was a draw away, but their home form seems to be on point at the moment. The last 2 home games have scored 4 goals. Jack, let's have your prediction for this next game.
Well, I know John Nesbitt saying Norwich are a lot better side than us. I don't think they're a lot better than us. I don't think there's a great deal to choose between them and us. They've probably got more goals in the team, as you've touched on at the minute. Well, they've definitely got more goals in the team. And they might be in a little bit better form, way bang out of form. But I don't think Norwich are that. I don't think there's a great gap between us. So I think I'm going to go draw. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw on Saturday. We've got Leicester as well in midweek, by the way. I don't know if anyone's I know Terry's sort of puffing his cheeks, looking as if to say, like, oh my God. Leicester have lost a couple recently, but that doesn't fill you with any confidence. So I think I'm going to give 2 predictions. I'm going to say draw against Norwich, and I think Leicester will beat us 2-0. So 1 point out of the next 2 games, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah, there you go, Terry. He set the mark. 2 predictions to do now. 2 predictions. Muted.
Oh, Terry nearly got a whole hour without going on mute.
Is he taking the mic? You muted again. Now you're unmuted.
Right, so we've got a week ahead of us here. We've got Norwich, Leicester, and Southampton the weekend. Southampton will want revenge as well, I suppose. But The season is completely tapered away, hasn't it? Let's face it. I mean, the players last season we had Serkin, who was really good, and he's just like injury prone this season. Huggins gets on fire, scores some good goals, linking up really well. Jack Clark, he's injured, he's gone, and now Jack Clark as well. And it just seems to have just completely just tapered and faded away the season. Typical Sunderland, isn't it? Though everybody expects them to beat Swansea and they get beat. Everyone expects them to get beat against Norwich. It'd be typical Sunderland to go there and get a result. It would definitely be, but me, Terry, I think we'll get beat. So I'll go for a 1-1 draw. But the mad mistake thinks we'll win, so I'll go for 1-1 draw. There we go.
There you go.
Leicester home. Leicester at home will get beat 3-0. No, I can't say that. It's a 3-3 draw. There we go.
Going optimistic with the draws. Well, obviously I won't be let off lightly. I'm going to default Philly on this one and go a surprise 3-1 win to Sunderland for the Norwich game. And I think if we can hold out for a 1-1 draw at Leicester, I'll be a happy man.
Have you got some of that stuff for you? Have you got a lot of that stuff in your cupboard in there for your preppers?
What's that? Yeah.
Marijuana, or whatever it's called. A drug. 3-1.
The best thing is not the results. He thinks we're scoring 4 goals in the next 2 games.
Well, so all it needs is Hamir to find his feet, and we're going. Trust me. Have faith. I'll say it as Jacob's not here. Keep the faith. That's what we'll say. So, on that note, Terry, would you like to say goodbye to everyone?
Yes, and don't forget to give us the thumbs up today. Thumbs up, please. Much appreciated. Thumbs up. And subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thanks for joining in the chat. We really enjoyed it, even though I have got no other device here because my laptop's fecked to see who's actually on the chat. But anyway, thanks for your comments. I really enjoyed not reading them, but it's much appreciated. Jack enjoyed them.
Jack?
Yeah, as I always say, thanks for people commenting, because if we didn't have an audience and we didn't have people contributing, we would just be 3 blokes rambling onto ourselves. So thanks for getting involved, people. Hopefully I've managed to read out most of your comments. I know I've missed quite a few, but it has been quite busy on the chat, so sorry on that. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we'll get more than 1 point out of the next 2 games. I would love to think Mike's right and we're getting 4 points out of the next 2 games. Every Sunderland fan would snap your hand off for that. But we'll see how we get on. And I'll see everybody later, lads and lasses.
Listen, if he goes with my formation and he listens to my advice, then we'll win. It's as simple as that. Everyone, over 100 people being here the majority of the time. It's much appreciated. If Jack did miss your comments, well, that's your fault, because you can always do a super chat or become a member. So they're the 2 options right there.
We've had Michael Beale. We've had Michael Dodds. Are you the new Michael?
I could be the next Michael, but, I've probably got less experience, but more knowledge than the both put together. Right. On that note, I will go before anyone can tear me down any further. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you all in the next video.
Cheers, everyone.